Hey there, everybody. It's meteorologist Jamie Singleton watching this big storm system coming up for us here on our. This is the Saturday evening update. I've got about 10 minutes to do this. I've got to jump off and do an important Zoom meeting with my sister and the rest of the family. We're playing Pictionary or something at 7. So that's also important in these times. So excited about that. But I wanted to give you a quick update. Here's our system coming together. We've got a tornado watch out right now in Texas. Numerous severe thunderstorm warnings are in effect off to the west here, around Lubbock, in between Lubbock and Dallas. These primarily have been big hail-producing storms so far. What we will see, there's a lot of dry air aloft. What we're going to see is that dry air aloft moves in with the subtropical jet stream tapping into the Gulf of Mexico moisture. We'll start to see these become more tornadic storms tomorrow for Easter Sunday. We do locally have some clouds moving in right now, some high clouds out there making for a pretty good sunset over the next hour or so, and some light returns on the radar. So we could see a few areas of light showers as early as tomorrow morning. I do think the chances of rain go up for tomorrow as the system moves in, but the real severe weather will not get here until Monday. And they may hang around for Monday afternoon and through the early afternoon as well. This northern system here, with all this snow, up to 8 inches of snow in Montana, is kind of swinging through. Now, these two don't totally combine, but it will act to pick this southern stream system up. So you've got the southern stream system, which yesterday was just south of LA, now over southern Arizona. It continues to lift out into the southern plains. So still, we've yet to see the full impact of this storm. That's going to be coming together over the next couple of days. I mentioned that I added real-time lightning to my data feed. You can see as it glows there on your screen. This is the storm system right now, and you can see how it's producing the lightning. Now, a lot of this is artistic effect. I will admit that. However, when it comes to impacting you as these storms get closer, especially as we transition from just a rain event tomorrow for Easter Sunday, tomorrow afternoon and evening, we'll transition from rain to storms at some point. And lightning detection will be very, very important. I'm also studying some of the Doppler radar dual polarization parameters. Pretty advanced stuff, actually. I'm doing a crash course in that this weekend, so I can do a little bit more with the radar data as we get closer into Monday morning. But you can see we're still in advance of this system, although there are a few showers already in Kentucky. So let's check out the computer models, and let me go to that right now. I've also got my automated system up and running that I wanted to have in place for Monday too. So that's called Simple Weather Alert, and that's posting on my behalf to Twitter and Facebook. And speaking of the alerts, in West Virginia already we've got here, let me move this over, a little bit hard to see, but here in the brown areas we do have high wind watches in effect for the West Virginia counties, including going up and across the Allegheny Highlands here. We've got a high wind watch in effect for Monday. That's because we're going to see a lot of wind in the form of straight line winds mixing down with this. So this system has a lot in the way of moisture for us, and flooding problems are just as important to realize as the severe weather threat. And also, I should mention, a lot of focus has been on tornadoes, but there's going to be just so much wind just above our heads at 5,000 feet that any heavy rain can mix that down. I'm going to show you first the future radar here as we go in motion. This is off the 18Z NAM. You can see out one little area of clouds and maybe some light sprinkles coming through after midnight. A couple of light showers around maybe for sunrise, if you're going to do your own sunrise service outside tomorrow, maybe a bit cloudy and sprinkly for that. And then by about lunchtime, the showers will be breaking out across our area. Now, the heaviest of the weather will still be off to the south and to the west of the area down here across Kentucky and Tennessee. There'll be more lines of severe storms breaking out as we go into Alabama, and this is going to be the big line here around Memphis. All those black circles are rotating updraft helicity values where we could see possible tornadoes in that. That's off the model there as you go into western Kentucky and Louisville and southern Indiana and Illinois. Notice for us, it's primarily rain. I will have to mention there is a lot of wind shear, even more impressive wind shear in my opinion, over us as far as the angle's concerned, because you can see those arrows there out of the southeast. If you got a southeast wind here and you have enough of a southwest component aloft, that's usually enough backing to produce rotation. However, we're not going to have a lot of instability moving in, at least we don't think, late tomorrow. I'm still going to watch out for some what we call elevated convection, where storms could pop up within the rain, but they wouldn't necessarily be tornadic. But we could have some gusty storms around as early as Sunday evening by 5 or 6 o'clock. I'm going to be watching this first initial wave that moves through, because that's been looking stronger to me on the computer models, although it doesn't scream tornado to me. In fact, this is the forecast sounding, and we've got the hazard type here at none, and this is for tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock. But you can see the winds coming out of the southeast and then veering around from the southwest. Just limited instability though, but a very moist column. See the red and the green close together there? That's a lot of moisture in the air. 1.5 inches is the precipitable water. That means we'll have some heavier downpours. And there's a lot of lift here. There in the red, you see all that? That's omega. That's lift at different levels of the atmosphere. So this is for one spot tomorrow near Roanoke and near Franklin County, I think is where I pulled this up. But don't get focused on that. Just know that it's going to start raining heavily Sunday evening. And if you go just a little bit off the ground, our winds will be gusting all the way, not gusting, but sustained at about 30 to 45 miles per hour as early as late tomorrow. So we're going to see some very strong winds, power outages, trees down probably in a few areas, a lot of tree limbs down as well, regardless of whether or not we see tornadoes, okay? And then as we move closer into the evening hours, into the morning hours of Monday, rather, after midnight, there's a little bit of a cap here. This is your parcel. I know I'm getting kind of technical, but the wind shear, actually, the angle lessens, because now we're looking at a south wind under a southwest wind. Almost a south-southwest and then southwest. However, we are starting to become a little more unstable up underneath this cap. And then as we go throughout the day, now we're getting into Monday morning around 7 a.m. This is, again, your Henry Franklin. I think I've got this over Franklin County, but don't get too focused on that. A lot of lift here. You can sometimes get too much lift, and that may be something to watch. There's also a lot of wind energy, as I mentioned. There could be too much wind for tornadoes. If you get too much wind shear, it'll rip the updraft apart. You've got a funnel or a rotating updraft. If you've got too much wind blowing across that, it'll rip it apart. However, around here, sometimes you don't need a long column of that. You just need a little bit near the surface. And these low, what we call lifted condensation levels, can produce very short tornadoes in terms of how tall they stack up in the sky, but they can spin even underneath the radar beam sometimes. It can be very tricky to forecast. We start to get more unstable in our hazard type here. This is an algorithm, has now gone to a weak tornado from nothing. So we start to become a little more concerned for supercell development after, say, around 6, 7 a.m. on Monday. Then as we go into Monday, let's see, I've got it up here, 14Z. This would be, let's see, that's 10 a.m. You've got more of a backing back to the south-southeast almost. Probably more southerly here, but I've seen some models go a little bit farther to the south-southeast. A lot of lift here in the mid-levels. Very moist all the way up here, and more buoyancy in the atmosphere. So our hazard type has gone from weak tornadoes to just tornado, and then there's been other models I've seen for that same time period going PDS tornado, which is particularly dangerous situation, long-lived, violent tornado still possible. It doesn't mean probable. My feeling is the setup does not include a warm front near the area. That can sometimes enhance spin. A lot of our notable tornadoes occur because of a wedge in a warm front that adds extra spin to the atmosphere when we see these systems move in. We're not going to have that this time. The warm front's going to be way north of the area. So what we're going to be focused on will be spin outside of the front. And that could mean good news for some areas, but bad news for others. To me, spelling a really bad situation for Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Greensboro, down to Bennettsville, down to Raleigh, Fayetteville. This area, I think, really has to worry about tornadoes as we go through the day on Monday, and even maybe the Richmond areas. But then as we go into our area, it may be that we have too much wind shear. However, I can't rule out anything with this. It's kind of a rare setup actually, in that we do see a lot of our tornadoes from warm front straight over the area. If you go to my Patreon, I've got a very detailed description of that. Either way, the models may be underestimating the instability coming in. So we know we're going to have lots of rotation, but how much instability? This is the Euro, which tends to overdo it a little bit. But this is CAPE, forecast CAPE, convective available instability. You don't need a lot of CAPE around here for tornadoes if you have enough spin. And we don't have a lot of CAPE around tomorrow for Sunday until later in the night, around 10 or 11 and midnight or so. We start to get some minimal CAPE moving in. And again, we may have to worry about some spinning as early as midnight, but especially as we go into the morning hours around 6, 7, 8 o'clock, you can see those higher levels there showing up all the way as far north as the Shenandoah Valley. So we'll have to watch for tornadoes then. And there may be a second line that develops, even though the models don't indicate it as much. There may be a second line that develops and becomes severe or tornadic coming up. So I would very much encourage you to stay tuned to the weather. Let me just show you real quick before I sign off here, because I've got 3 minutes before I got to do my Zoom thing, and then I'm heading to the harvester. If you go up at 5,000 feet, the winds are still just off the charts at 70 to 90 miles per hour at 5,000 feet. If we drag the heavy rain through that, that'll push some of that down to the ground. I'm very concerned about a widespread windstorm in terms of just straight line winds that these heavy rains will bring through. And a lot of people see damage, they assume it's a tornado, but straight line winds can do EF1, EF2 similar damage to a tornado. They can flip cars, they can destroy homes. So this may be a big concern here. This is some very high wind showing up. This is actually 85 to 90 mile per hour wind showing up from Franklin County south across Martinsville, and the rest of the area sees 54 to 65 mile per hour winds Monday morning. All right, so it's going to be very windy. Maybe some, areas where it's hard to tell if it's a tornado or straight line winds, but the damage is just as impressive. All right, so Sunday from 7 p.m., watch out for elevated convection, embedded squalls, and then as we go into Monday by 4 a.m. to probably 3 p.m. would be the time to watch. That's the latest for now. I have more updates as we get closer.